Welcome to the KIX EAP Podcast, your monthly podcast with important leaders in education from Eastern Europe, Middle East and North Africa, Central Asia, and the Asia Pacific. I'm your host, Ryan Allen, assistant professor at Chapman University here in Southern California, and my own background is in international and comparative education. Let's start the show. Today we have Rokeya Akhter. In the interview, we discuss her work to expand inclusion in basic education and schooling in Bangladesh, her time as a teacher and principal, and what inspired her to become an educator. Let's start the show. All right. Welcome to the podcast. It's been nice to connect with you since we arranged the interview. And I look at your resume and you have all these wonderful different experiences. And I'm just wondering, to begin, how did you get inspired to go into education? You can talk a little bit about that.
I was very much enthusiastic about education system. Even in from my childhood, my memory of childhood is full of my school environment rather than books and curriculum. I remember the school campus, the big school campus, green playground, big old trees, and beautiful seasonal flower beds in front of the school building, and a wide crop field at the back. It is one of the unique school campus in Dhaka city still now. And it was a boarding school also, so there were so many disciplinary things and activities. My memory is full of the natural things and some activities, uh, and the organized programs by our teachers. So I feel like school should be like that. Children will have enough space to play around, and they will not be only in classroom. So beyond the classroom, the school activities actually and enthusiast me a lot.
That's fantastic. If we could, would like to hear your experience as a teacher in an international school, because that really set you up and some of the things that you thought about education. So can you kind of jump into those experiences?
Yes, when I finished my post graduation exams, me and my friends actually had some time to work, and we thought that why not joining in a school. And there was a English medium international school newly opened in Dhaka. From there, actually, there was a circular, so we joined some of our friends there, and then we found that they are running a school with British curriculum and books, and the system is British, not just regular Bangladeshi system. And what I learned from there, that how interesting a teacher can make the education or learning system more presentable to the students, and how students can be more attracted to learning system. And specifically the elementary teaching system was very nice, and it was the beginning. So I thought that why not in the general school, public school, these type of interesting teaching method adopted. So mm, uh, I had a plan to join in public school and introduce this kind of interesting teaching method. So this was the beginning of teaching and uh, making some innovation in teaching.
Right. Yeah. That you were able to see a different experience, and then you wanted to take that to the public schools. So that's quite inspiring. I'm wondering though, you didn't stay as a teacher. You actually moved to become a principal, actually. Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe sort of designing creative learning activities and other materials?
As a teacher, actually, sometimes there is less scope to bring a lot of change in the education system. But when I got a chance to be a principal in a laboratory school that is experimenting how to make the education, the school as a model school. So it was the program from government, actually education ministry. Some of the schools were having a laboratory school, and they were trying to make it like a model, and then it will be followed by copied to other districts and schools. So over there I got the chance to make changes in books and curriculum, and also I had a chance to work with the one curriculum body board, where different from different schools, the teachers and administrators, principals joined to make English version curriculum. So in our school also we opened English version government curriculum, and for the elementary level we introduced many kind of activities and books, programs, um, uh, innovative things. And still now my students from that time, who are now already graduated um, from universities, uh, they actually, when they meet me, they talk about that, how interesting it was, the education system and the
Oh, wow.
programs. Yeah, and that is interesting. Very good feedback.
Right,
you know.
right. Yeah, I love to hear
And
that.
about the quality, as a principal, I had to I had to make some programs for the teachers to build teachers' skills, to improve the teaching and learning capacity. And we had a chance to avail one British course from British Council. Um, from the University of City and Guilds, we had a course how to make classroom environment more attractive and classroom teaching more innovative.
Again, I love the experience of, seeing your students years later and they're professionals and they're doing, maybe they're educators too in some cases, and they're talking about that experience that they had so long ago, when you were there, and the things that you created for them. So we love to hear that and to see that cycle. I guess the question, though, I have about the British Council and that sort of quality education, sometimes when we bring curriculum and ideas from one place, whether it's, maybe the UK, to another place, so Bangladesh, sometimes things don't quite match up. And there, maybe there's some cultural differences or aspects that are unexpected from the locality. Did you face any of those kinds of things, or did any issue like that pop up?
Yeah, sometimes the parents even they some of the parents complain that teachers pass so much time with doing assignments and activities. They don't go to straight to the question and answers, which will come in the board exams, and the students are busy with making scrapbooks and assignments. So you are not putting much pressure on their studies, but they are doing something else, something like that. Actually, the problem is with the traditional mindset. Sometimes parents don't like so much activities beyond the exam oriented education. They like more to put stress on the focus on the question answers and guidebooks, not beyond the textbook. But innovative education and a learning system requires something beyond the book, something from the global knowledge and resources. So when teacher uh, brings something new, and it takes much time to introduce, and it takes much time to do the work, and actually students love those things, but parents sometimes cannot cope with it. They think that they are misusing the time, and they are not very much focused to the studies, and they will not do good in exams. That is the challenge sometimes. And other challenge is all the teachers are not equally capable to take the innovative system. They are sometimes not that much creative to think out of the box. In that case, actually, they need more mentoring, that sometimes create gap. So that is challenge. But I think as a laboratory school, we made a successful uh, um, achievement. That's why the applications to put the children in the that school was very high. That was very competitive during the admissions, and we had to open more. Shift, the one or two or three shifts in the school. So from the early morning to the evening, the school was running. So we had to adjust with all these changes. And also we could expand the school, change schools in other districts. And we had a challenge to recruit good teachers and train the teachers in English and also in creative learning. But uh, anyway, those schools are found that those schools are the best schools in that district. So I think we were successful.
I see. Wow. Yeah, those do sound like challenges, especially to maybe change people's minds about like what is traditional education and what schooling should look like. That's really difficult to get people to think in new ways. And I guess it takes, as you mentioned, sort of the results. The schools that are the model schools and the laboratory school that help spawn those schools are some of the best in the district. So maybe that can make people change their mind a little bit. After you finished your working as a principal, you actually went and got your PhD at the University of Dhaka. Can you talk a little bit about your PhD dissertation and the
Actually,
research?
I was very much I was very much oriented to make analyze the education system always, and my dissertation is on the education system, because in Bangladesh, specifically in big town in Dhaka and Chittagong and Sylhet, there are three academic systems, school system are running at the time, but those are totally different. The public school system, what government runs, that is actually for everybody. But those parents who think that we have some affordability to put our children to international school, they try to look for some good schools, quality schools, and they go look for private school. So the I told you, when I was starting my career, I found opening international schools in Dhaka. Like that, several private schools open in Dhaka. So there is another curriculum, the international curriculum. Sorry. And okay, and the language of the education system is English. So in that case, these are the two basic different education system running, and another one is madrasa, religion based education system. So how these three kinds of education system making the social structure, and the children who are coming out from these education systems, how they are coping each other, and how the social infrastructure is changing. That was the sociological analysis of my PhD dissertation. So it was basically on my experience of working with the education system, and also some new experience putting uh, the theories of contemporary theories. Like I picked up the Pierre Bourdieu's theory of education for reproduction. That was the main theory of my dissertation.
That sounds wonderful. You know, a lot of my students also use Bourdieu, so it's certainly a theory that can be applied widely. And we'll be sure to link to some of that research because I think it would be quite interesting for our audience to have a look at that. You mentioned a little bit about the sort of the government and maybe some of the offerings that the government has, and I'm curious how you've worked with the government in terms of basic education and expanding schooling.
After finishing my PhD, actually, I moved to the development sector because my education, my post graduation, graduation and post graduation was on sociology. So I thought that my uh, career should follow something related to my education. And so I started working with the development sector, and what I found very interesting that uh, I had experience working with the formal school and governments and parallel school like private schools. But what happens in the remote areas in Bangladesh? What happens in the pockets and corners where schools are not available, teachers are not available, and children lives far away? There are challenges to reach school, and even there are challenges with social system like social norms. Some communities are not uh, uh, accepted by some community, the minority communities, I mean. So how their children are getting education. I had the opportunity to visit across the country through development initiatives, and I learned that development initiative is so much important to work for the remote people and for the minority people and the people who are depressed, distressed, and has less opportunity, like people with disabilities, and even for the girl children, the education is still very, very, very hard for the families to continue. So, what I have done with my projects where I have worked, like they opened schools, then they affiliated it with the government system, and the schools, after a few years, it turned into government schools. So, where government is not able to open schools by their system, it is opened by NGOs or the civil society, and then they are affiliated. So those children at some point got the chance to appear in the government system exams, board exams. So in that way, the education for all the target to reach all the children for education is increasing, improving. And also, I have seen that there are non-formal education system run by government, also by um, NGOs. Very interesting. What I found in one program, I used to lead the program for adolescent girls who are like from 9 years to 18 years. These girls dropped out from school, and their parents are not that much capable to send them back to school. Some of them are. are taking care of the family members at home. So these girls are very much vulnerable in the society for their as a girl, and as a social traditional system that girls should get married um, early. That means if they don't have anything to do, they should be get married away. So for them, uh, we had a program Shonglap, and that program was designed with the theory, following the theory of pedagogy of oppressed, the Paulo Freire's theory, the critical thinking process. The process starts with identification of own problem and analyzing the cause and root causes of the problem. Then these girls play something, some drama or something, the problem shows in the society how it happens. Then they go for solution. Then they discuss with the community people how to um, make some strategies, some steps to solve the problem. So they take actions. In that way, the education system of the oppressed uh, build up, and that worked a lot. That worked quite good, and I worked for that. I was there were 100,000 girls came out by five
Wow.
years from that
Yeah.
program. Yeah, it is quite successful program.
Wow. That program sounds wonderful, and all the other work too. So wow, kudos to you on that. If we could, we're kind of coming to the end of the interview, and I want to ask you a little bit about your experience with SAIST and maybe some of the local work that you're doing there, and really connecting with a broader question of the importance of having that local perspective and hearing from local organizations and local experts.
Yeah, SAIST is uh, run actually founded by young researchers, and their enthusiasts to work with global scholars made it a great journey from local to international. And I joined with them uh, since 2016, 2015, like that. And I found that the spirit of young researchers, it is so different when there is a spirit that can do a lot, and it can connect globally, because they have connections with local researchers, and they have connections with the global researchers, global scholars, who actually most of them they went from our country to abroad to um, get education, and then teaching in different universities. So that is a very interesting network I have found in SAIST, and with my research enthusiast, I am working with them, and I'm enjoying working with the young researchers.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Get the youth perspective to get that energy. So
Actually, now with SAIST, I am leading one of the KICS project, education project, named Effectiveness and Scalability of Programs for Children who are out of the school and at risk of dropping out in Bangladesh. So from Bangladesh, we SAIST is leading this project, and it is a consortium project. So the project is led by Kathmandu University from Nepal, and we have already passed a few months um, for this project. Our area of the project is urban slums, and we are seeing that uh, the new slums are growing in urban areas, and uh, when the new slums grow, what happens with the families who fled from rural areas to urban area, and the children, how vulnerable they are and why they don't go to school. So what are the challenges? We are finding the challenges, and we are also looking at the interventions of government and non-government for the dropout children, and we are trying to scale it up for all these children. So we are very much hopeful that we will cover all these children in education, and they will be at some point they will adjust with the government education system, and they will go to primary schools.
That's great. We actually had a previous guest, Dr. Balchandra Luitel from Kathmandu University. So I'm excited to hear that there's sort of a crossover network from people on the podcast. So we're looking forward to the projects that come out of that collaboration. Rokeya, thank you very much for joining me on the podcast. It's been wonderful talking to you. And this concludes our KIX EAP podcast, which is released every first Wednesday of the month. Of course, the opinions expressed on the KIX EAP podcast are solely those of the host and the guest. The KIX EAP podcast is made possible by KIX, which stands for Knowledge and Innovation Exchange. KIX is an initiative of the Global Partnership for Education. Globally, KIX is administered by the International Development Research Center in Canada. NORAG in Geneva hosts one of the 4 regional hubs of KIX. Find us on the NORAG or GPE KIX websites. You can subscribe to the KIX EAP podcast, newsletter, and webinar series, and also learn about KIX global or regional projects. Additionally, you can subscribe directly on Spotify or SoundCloud to receive notifications of the new monthly podcast episodes. Thanks for listening.